Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Michael Hartley with Action Coach. What needs to pivot in my business, kickstart your day, get you refocused, because business is changing daily right now. So I am Dr. Michael Hartley. I'm a non-medical type of doctor. I operate on business. And when we look at what needs to pivot in our business right now, we've been starting with ourselves every single day. Every single episode, we've been focused on us, mindset. So when we look at your mindset, what are the things that you are doing? Let's start with that. What are the things that you're actually doing right now? What are the things that you should be doing that you may not be doing right now? We've talked through over a dozen different resources, tools that you can do to help shift your mindset on a daily basis, from your physical environment to the things that you say to the visuals you put in front of you. You see, all of these start to kind of come together, to the people you surround yourself with, to the questions you ask yourself at the end of every single day. Did I do my best to? When you answer that question, did I do my best to make progress on goals? Did I do my best to be positive today? Did I do my best to influence one person in the right direction today? Like when you ask yourself those type of questions, did I do my best to? When you ask yourself that question, it's really hard to fall below the point. And when we talk about below the point, we're talking about blame, excuse, denial. You see, when we stay above the point, it's ownership, accountability, responsibility. So that single question at the end of every day, did I do my best to? And then fill in the blank with a handful of different things that you should be focused on. Did I do my best to lead the team? Did I do my best to add one positive thing to somebody today? Did I do my best to pay it forward? Did I do my best to accomplish my goals? Whatever those things are, it's really hard to fall below the point, because the beginning of every single question is, did I do my best to? So ask yourself those kind of questions. Did I do my best to? And then fill in the blank, whatever that may be for you. And then we can dive into how to become a virtual leader and what needs to pivot there. So did you do your best yesterday? Simple question. Did you do your best to stay focused? Did you do your best to be efficient with your time? Did you do your best to make progress on the commitments you've made? And if the answer is no, well, then you have to look at the mirror and go, okay, what do I need to do differently? And if the answer is yes, great. Let's make it day 2, make it day 3, make it day 4. We have a client who we created a game, a point system based on activities that the owner needs to do and then that the team needs to do to become successful. And he sends me his score at the end of every single day. And one of his points is no excuses. Excuses are really easy in his business. So we give points for no excuses, and we do negative points for excuses. So what do you need to do to shift your mindset to be where you need to be? Start with those things. It's a place to begin. Then we get into leadership. Handful of things here. So we've talked through a variety of them, and we're going to kind of finish the leadership series out today, and then next week we'll start a new one. So we look at leadership. Number 1, lead first, location second. Number 2, leading remotely requires you to lead differently. 3, working remotely changes interpersonal dynamics. 4, use technology as a tool, not a barrier. Number 5, leading requires a focus on the 3-0 model. 6, leading successfully requires achieving goals of many different types. Number 7, focus on achieving goals, not just setting them. They have to be smart. There has to be action behind them. Number 8, coach your team regardless of where they are, regardless of where they work. 9, communicate in ways that work best for others rather than your personal preference. Again, we talked a lot about this. If you haven't watched those ones, go back and watch them. Number 10, leading successfully requires an understanding of what people are thinking, not just doing. You must understand their mindset. Put yourself in their shoes. Number 11, building trust at a distance doesn't happen by accident. It must be intentional. Number 12, identify the leadership results you need. 13, recapping yesterday now, maximize a tool's capability or you'll minimize your effectiveness. 14, seek feedback to best serve outcomes, others, and ourselves. And 15, examine your beliefs and self-talk. Again, going back to mindset. And number 13 is a big one, because if you allow, and it's kind of mentioned earlier as well, which is, if technology is a barrier, if you don't understand how to properly use the key technology that your team is using, you will fall behind. Your team will fall behind. And so you must be able to maximize the tool's capacity, and you must have the right mindset going into it, which leads us into the final ones for today. Number 16, accept that you can't do it all. Find a balance between being responsible to your organization, your company, your team, and taking care of yourself. We're talking about health here. We're talking about wellness. We're talking about mindset. You must get sleep. You must eat the right stuff and enough of food and things like that. It's about taking care of your physical body and your mental state of being, so that way you can move the team forward and your business forward. Look at your organization's process and workflow. How can you delegate things to the team? You can't take it all on yourself. Identify areas where the team could handle your activities. There's an art to delegation. And if you'd like more information on that, please reach out, because that's what we coach through when we talk about leadership. There's an art on how to delegate, and there's a process. And it's not just like you do one thing and it's done. It's a week over week process that gets implemented slowly, one step at a time. So you have to be able to identify these areas where the team can take on more responsibility. And then you have to be willing to kind of let it go and let them take it. Delegate effectively and successfully. There's a big difference between delegation and abdication. Too many business owners abdicate. There must be a written process, a document, a video, something along those lines that teaches somebody how to go do the work. Again, we want to leverage your time, so we don't want like physical human beings having to be there teaching all the time. It should be a system. And those common routine type things that you're going to be delegating, you create a system around it. Now the team can go look at the system for answers versus individuals for answers. So accept that you can't do it all. For some, that hits more home than others. Number 17, balance your priorities to be a remarkable long-distance leader. Know the difference between self-preservation and selfishness. Going back to the previous point, self-preservation is making sure that A, the company is still going to be moving forward, and B, that we're not going to lose our health in the process. That's the difference. So you have to be able to prioritize these differences and become an amazing long-distance leader. Your values determine how you decide what is truly important. We talked about this yesterday. The beliefs, identity, and values that we hold true, our core system, our pillars of the business, our culture points, the vision of the business, all of those things, those should help determine what is important to the business and what is not. So what you start to see here is, when you have a clear vision, when you have a clear mission, when you have these points of culture and things of that nature, decisions in your business are no longer hard to make, because every option can be a good option. The question is which ones are most important based off the long-term vision of where we're going. Everyone has the same amount of time. The question is, how will you use it? And we'll get to questions here in a minute. I'm seeing them pop up, so we will definitely get to questions here at the end. Everyone has the same amount of time every single day, same 24 hours. The question is how will you use it? What will you be doing? We talk about the fact that it's self-management, not time management. We do whole 2-hour workshops just on this one thing, because this is the number one thing that almost every single person struggles with the most first. It's one of the reasons why we focus on self-management when someone jumps into a coaching program. Because if they don't have their time and they're self-managed, they don't have time set aside to do certain types of tasks, what ends up happening is they don't have time to go do it. So we have to have self-management. We have to have these type of things in place. Knowing your values allows you to prioritize all of your activities. Number 18, ensure your leadership development prepares long distance leaders. What kind of organization do you want to be? Does your culture match the vision? What behaviors do you expect from long distance leaders? So think about this if you're on the receiving end. What would be those things that you would anticipate that you need, want, desire from a long distance leader? How does your culture that we were just talking about, how does that match the vision and how you actually move things forward? What should your organization, your company, your business seek out to become? And then how do you lead the team towards it? What is your plan for developing and supporting long distance leaders? How do you support others in the process? What does that actually look like? How will the organization support the remote team members? Again, this comes back down to systems. When you don't have the right systems in place, it's really more difficult to move the team forward in those ways. What does that actually look like? So when you have the right system in place, when you have the right team in place, when you're leading them throughout all of these different areas that they can all become better in, what does that actually look like for you? And 19, remember rule number 1. Think about leadership first, location second. As leaders, we need to do the same things just in a different way. We are leaders who need to lead in our business and in our community, which is the biggest one right there. It's not just in your specific business. It's holistically in your community, your circle of influence. Don't just lead 2 people, 3 people. Don't just lead your business. Lead your communities. We're built this way. So do it. Choose to do it. Wise leaders generally have wise counselors because it takes a wise person themselves to distinguish them. Wise leaders generally have wise counselors because it takes a wise person themselves to distinguish them. It's pretty powerful. So wherever you're watching this right now, 2 things that you need to pivot based off of all 19 items to pivot in becoming a great virtual leader. And then we'll get to some questions here in a minute. And every single Thursday, we do the Action Network. It's virtual networking, dmh.com, dmh.actioncoach.com/networking. You get the first 2 weeks for free. We've kicked it off. It's been amazing. The reviews are pretty awesome, and the learnings are even better. We're making sure that we're adding value every single week. So if you haven't jumped into that, jump into it. Your first weeks are free, so you can kind of check it out and see how we do it, because we do networking very differently, and we do it differently intentionally. So 2 things real quick that you need to pivot into your business. And then if we have questions, we'll get to those.